Hi, everyone. Welcome to Seal of Approval. First, I just want to apologize for running 2 minutes late. The reason why I was running late is right here. Basically, Cami has got very hyperactive and she has been unplugging both my monitors, and she's still on the attack.
She's trying to get warm.
It's like the flat is quite warm. And she's got a nice comfy pillows, and she's been asleep like all day. And the second I need to actually do anything, she has decided to go back on the attack.
That's why cats are perfect, because they're little pains in the ass. That's what they do. This is what cats are. You know this. You knew this going into getting a cat.
Oh yeah, I mean, I do love her, but right now she is really in dickhead mood. Like, just look, like just constant.
You have to get her a laser toy.
I've got the laser toy, which she loves, which she absolutely loves. But it's in the other room, and she just needs to behave herself if she wants any treats. But anyway, let's get back on topic. Enough about Cami. So hi everyone it's Seal of Approval hasn't been on for the last couple of weeks because I've just been exhausted. If I'm being quite honest. But here we are today, and we got some amazing guests. In fact, we got people. This is like one of the biggest name panels that I've had in a long time. I'm really happy to welcome back Blaire White. Hi, Blaire.
Hi, nice to be back here. What a good comeback episode, right?
I know. It's been so long since we last chatted. I mean, that was like back when you were certainly when you were living in LA.
Like, the dark years.
The dark years.
So how are you finding Texas then? Like, I know you mentioned it a little bit before, but they just kind of like updates us on like how it's all going in Austin.
I love it so much. I hung out with Ariel towards the beginning of when I moved here, so she can attest to the fact that I was talking so much shit about it. I was saying I hate it there. I want to go back to LA ASAP, but that was just me breaking the Stockholm syndrome that LA had on me. And now I fully love it. I have the most amazing friends here. I felt like I've built bonds here with people that are so much deeper than most of my friendships I had in LA. And you can kind of attribute that to whatever you want. But, and also just like, I think I was afraid that there wouldn't be as many career opportunities for me out here, but I found that there's way more.
I mean,
great.
Well, Joe Rogan.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Exactly.
Yeah, you have the Blaze, you have Glenn Beck, you got a lot of people out there.
Alex Jones Sydney, is in Texas, isn't he?
Sydney and Elijah are in Dallas.
Yeah, Texas is
2 hours
great.
away.
And yeah, I was at dinner with Alex a couple nights ago. It was really funny.
Oh my god.
Oh god, he's funny.
What was that? What was that like? I'm jealous. What was that like?
It was great. He's a really sweet guy. He is a full-on teddy bear in real life. He's the same person. He believes all the same stuff. Every time I hang out with him, he's the same person, but he also is really, really funny and just goofy. It's always a good time.
I know that Dank has met him a couple of times because he went on. I think he went on InfoWars. He did like the outro for his video.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah, like everyone that I know who has met Alex Jones has said that he's a really lovely guy, and like I wouldn't say like I'm a fan of Alex Jones and so much of like what he talks about on InfoWars, but I just kind of find him such a cuddly meme, if that makes sense. Like it's just the kind of like the meme value of the man. Like I would absolutely love to meet him.
Yes, and I've said this to his face, so I'm not talking shit. And I mean this in the most endearing way possible. He is the internet's crazy uncle. He's that uncle that he rants and raves and he says some shit. And a lot of the shit he said is wrong. Yeah. But every once in a while he hits you with a truth bomb and you're just like, damn, Uncle Alex, like for real? Okay, well then cool. That's him.
And also got another guest to introduce. I know that you guys can't stay on for too long. We have kind of like my usual co-host now, Mars.
Oh, I love him.
Oh, hey. Thanks for having me back on.
And like it's
sorry, I always feel like my intro is like I always sound really depressed, but I am.
You can't. Yeah, you do.
But it's good to be here, and it's good to hang out with Ariel. And I haven't seen you since I saw you in IRL. And
I know. Are you guys jealous that I got to hang out with Mars in person?
I was so jealous. I was like living for it.
I'm embarrassed that you visited me in a place called Kansas. So
listen, I had to see it. I have to see our wonderful country. I have to see every state.
Yeah, like everyone, like this is one of the reasons why I want to move to America, because like everyone that I kind of like associate, most of the people nowadays that I associate with YouTube, you know, it's people like you guys and Buck, and there's like a couple of others like Sarah Higdon and something. Like everyone just kind of lives in or around like kind of the southern states.
I would say that. Yeah, most of us do actually. Yeah,
that's how it is now. The world changed. Just a lot of people are out in Florida, Texas, you know, Tennessee.
Yep.
I just wish LA was New York, but not anymore.
Yeah. Like, I just wish it wasn't so hard to emigrate to America.
Speaking of Sarah, she just popped in the chat. Hey, Sarah.
Did she?
Yeah, Sarah's in Atlanta. I'm going to go visit her soon.
Hey. So, well, one of the things I'm really glad of having Blaire on, because you've met one of the people I want to talk about tonight, and I'm sure that you probably expected that this would come up. Joe Rogan. So, like, I've only very recently started listening to Joe Rogan after the whole controversy flared up. Like, I'd listened to like a couple of things when he was on YouTube, but then when he moved over to Spotify, I didn't have a Spotify account, so I didn't really care. Like, I'm not a fan of Spotify all that much. But after everything that happened, like, I have started listening to a show, and I've listened to the one which you were on. Which just starts in like the most random way with just discussion of aliens.
I know. So I went in and like, you know, I was thinking, okay, it's very, very rare for him to have a trans guest on. I think the only other one was Buck Angel, who I also love Buck so much. But so I was like, okay, so I wonder what the opener is going to be. And the opener to my episode is the first words Joe says is, so this guy right here, and he's talking about a figurine on the table. And I'm like, oh my God, trans woman guest in the first words. Like this guy right here. But yeah, he's great. And I actually feel really bad for him for all the shit that people are dumping on him right now. And I think it's very important that he, you know, takes a lot of these, you know, slings and arrows for all of us, because at the end of the day, they took Trump out. They took Alex out to an extent. I mean, he's still doing his thing, obviously, but not on any mainstream platform. And they're trying to do it to Joe. And after Joe, who's next? It really is like, you know, us.
Yeah. Well, all of this is absolutely coordinated. Like there's none of this is organic at all. And I think this kind of sprung up out of him getting so much more like attention from viewers over the old media.
It started with CNN. Well, it started before CNN was complaining about how everyone was listening to Joe and not them, and how everyone was trusting Joe and not CNN. It's like, how can you blame us for not trusting CNN?
Yeah.
Y'all lied about so much shit over the past 4 years. I'm sure before that, but like shit that we were at least aware of the last 4 years.
Yeah. And they always kind of, they always paint it as like everyone, you know, they're listening to what Joe Rogan is saying and they're believing Rogan, but like the reason why people listen to podcasts isn't really just because of him, but it's because of the type of people that he gets on. And it's just having conversations. He's not like they're trying to paint him almost like he's Alex Jones. Like they were able to take down Alex Jones. Rogan is the next big threat to them. Except Rogan doesn't push anything really.
What they don't have in mind is the fact that, you know, CNN and legacy media, the corporate press, they view people as, you know, easy to manipulate. You tell them one thing and they believe it. And that's largely who their audience is. It's people who are told something and then they believe it. And that's it. What they don't take into account is the fact that many people listen to Joe Rogan, not because they think that he is some health expert, not because they think he is some super intelligent guy. They actually listen to him because he's not the most intelligent guy. And I say that with all the due respect and love for him that I have. But he's a regular dude having regular conversations. And at the end of the day, it's those types of conversations that actually lead to enlightenment. It's not, you know, a one-way conversation with, you know, Brian Zelter saying something to you and then that's your talking point for the day. It's through conversations. And they don't have conversations. They have sound bites and they have, you know, time constraints to 3 minutes, and their ratings suck because people don't want that anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think that so much of the way that a lot of the news is done nowadays is I just completely lost my train of thought. that was weird. So what was I trying to say?
That he's getting better ratings than them, and and they think that everyone agrees with Rogan rather than just listening to him and making up their own mind.
Well, this story here is one which is like kind of like an example of how they're not even listening to what he is saying. So this is regarding his episode a few weeks back with Jordan Peterson, which I listened to last week on the way to work. It was like a 4.5 hour thing, and I was stuck in traffic almost the entire time. So I got through a hefty chunk of the podcast. And so this is framing it as like trans people will cause societal collapse. And I saw a couple of other tweets saying that Peterson had said that. But that's not what they were really talking about. They're not saying that trans people will cause it. What they're saying is that a lot of people who have these like gender identity issues and stuff, all of that, like it's almost like it's not like this is going to cause the societal collapse, but like all of this like need for like extra identity and stuff is almost like a symptom of it already happening.
Well, they're talking about the ideology. They're not talking about trans people. And that's the thing, the corporate media doesn't understand how to differentiate the two, right? They only see tribes. They're very, very tribal.
Yeah.
And the trans tribe to them is the exact same thing as trans ideology, which is not the same thing. And we're all sitting here obviously can attest to that because we are LGBT, but we disagree with it.
Yeah, exactly. And I found that the episode that he did with James Lindsay in particular, that was probably my favorite one that I've listened to, because Lindsay actually understood that so much of this comes from queer theory, which is something that I've mentioned a lot on my channel, but it's important for a lot of people to understand that when you mention things like trans ideology, queer theory is what that actually is. That's where all of this comes from.
I was gonna say, but like they've been trying to cancel him ever since. Remember? Well, not they, but specifically the trans cult has been trying to cancel him ever since he had Abigail Shrier on, because with talking about the book Irreversible Damage.
Oh, right.
So they've been trying to go after. So honestly, like the COVID thing is just like another excuse, but really they don't want like a few episodes gone. Like they'd rather just like completely nuke people out because wrong think or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like all of this, but like all of this is more than just the trans activists. That's just another like another bullet they can put in the chamber, because they've had to trawl through like thousands of hours of this. Like there's nearly like 1,500 episodes of Joe Rogan.
Can we talk about real privilege? How privileged that is, that you have the time, that you don't have to work, that you have the time to scroll through 1,500 episodes of somebody to.
Yeah, right? And bear in mind, they're not short. You're talking like I think the shortest ones are like 3 hours.
Right, and they have the time to go through these episodes to call him out on his privilege.
Yeah,
or whatever he's saying is wrong.
Yeah, and so that's what they've done when they've tried to pull out all these examples of him using the N-word. Like there will be people out there, I don't know whether or not they are paid or whether they are just volunteers for someone, but they would have had to have combed through everything to pull out all of these examples. Like this isn't people like organically coming through this, coming like across all this stuff, because they some of them like years and years old. And there's no one really going to be, like these people who hate him aren't going to be just so happen to be listening to this episode where he just so happens to say this thing. And then they're like, wait, what? Like, no,
let's be real. No one actually cares from either side. Like, even if you hate Joe Rogan, they hate him because he goes against the narrative. They hate him because he doesn't, toe the line. They don't hate him because he used the N-word. No one's sitting there saying, oh my God, I love Joe Rogan, but then I heard that he used the N-word 10 years ago, and now my idea of him is shot. Like, I don't think there's that many people out there like that.
No, of course.
Did you see the old video of Biden saying the N-word? They don't give a shit about that.
Right. If you don't care enough to vote for someone, who did that, then you certainly don't care enough to like be mad at someone on Spotify who did that. So stop bullshitting.
Exactly.
Yeah. And did you see the video that was put out by I can't remember Keats, I don't remember his name. Some YouTuber, went viral on Twitter, of him at Venice Beach in California asking Black people if they gave a shit about Joe Rogan using the N-word, and none of them cared.
Yeah, no one gives
And then all the white people were like, that's the most offensive thing. Blah, blah. And it's like, it just reminds me of all these supposed queer people that aren't actually queer being offended on our behalf as well.
Well, so much of this is performative. It's performative, like offense taking.
Yes. It's obnoxious. It's like, stop.
Yeah, it is. Like but that's so much of woke culture. So much of it is performative because you just look back into everyone's history and there's something problematic. But then
they tried to cancel me a few years back because I quoted 50 Cent in one of his songs in 2009 using the N-word, but I used the Nigga. But like I was quoting his song lyrics in 2009 on Twitter, and they tried to cancel me over that. I'm like, dude, like.
Who even cares? Like,
it's so stupid.
I also think like context matters. Like shit.
It does. Yeah. They don't care. No.
Exactly. No. And you have to be incredibly disingenuous to pretend as if you don't know when someone is racist or not. Like when someone really has hatred in their heart for people of other races, you know it when you see it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If it's a specific type of person and they do specific things. And it doesn't include singing along to a song 10 years ago. It doesn't include using the word in a neutral context. Yeah. It includes calling someone who is of that race that slur with the hard R probably. It includes, saying crazy shit, but not,
But but all these groups have done this. Like even the disabled group now, like you can't say certain words. I mean, honestly, I say the R word a lot. And I use hard R when I say retard all the time. I'm sorry. So
can I just quickly point something out? Had a quick look on Snopes. So we mentioned about Biden saying the N-word. So did Biden use racial slurs in the Senate? This shows just how brilliant a website Snopes is. False. So what, did he not use the words in the Senate? Well, here we go. It's true that Biden said the words captured above during the course of U.S. Senate hearing.
So how are they putting false and then they're putting...
It's true that he said it.
Scroll down enough.
Like, it's completely false. He didn't say the words. I mean, he did. He did.
Snopes is disgusting. Snopes is disgusting. To me, there is nothing more, and I'm not religious, so I'm not using this in like a super religious way, but there's nothing more demonic than like posing as something neutral and trying to be a fact checker, which in another universe that makes sense would be a highly valuable tool to be able to log into Snopes. And they're just so fucking partisan and it's so obvious that it's such an attack on like people and people's brains. It's horrible.
Yeah, like this is another one which they've now actually updated to outdated rating. But just before, this was mostly false. Did Biden admin fund crack pipes to advance racial equality? Where it was mostly false, but at the same time, like he was doing it all, but there were like 20 other things that he was doing at the same time.
It's the epitome of gaslighting. Like we literally have a video of him saying it.
And
you go to this website. Did he actually say it? No, don't believe your own eyes. Don't believe your own ears.
They all know. They know exactly what they're doing. They know that. So it's why it's kind of pointless to label them hypocrites for doing any of this. Like they know that they're doing it. They fully embrace it.
Yeah, they
but
know.
what are you going to do about it? What is anyone? Well, like you look at the people who are calling out not Biden, calling out Rogan for saying the N-word in context. And one of the main cheerleaders was an author who's used it dozens of times in his own books.
Yeah, so that's why it's kind of.
That's not like what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? He's on the right side. So what are you gonna do really? Like nobody cares.
That's why I really like Ariel. I've heard you make this comparison quite a bit, and I fully agree with it. The comparison between the leftist corporate media and abusers and being in an abusive relationship. It's the gaslighting, it's the lying, it's the keeping you on a tether, it's secluding you, it's all of that.
It's literally I looked it up, and I have a friend that's a therapist. She happens to be working with like alcoholics, but she's generally like a therapist. She can talk about anything, and she has a master's degree and such. And she even makes the comparison. She's like, this is gaslighting, this is manipulation, this is not secluding, but taking away people from people that they care about. It's I can't think of the word right now.
This is why, like, I just don't even bother with these people. Not that I'm not trying to get into the COVID thing, but just as an example, it doesn't matter the facts. Yeah, the CDC could literally, and they have, lied to us on video and say things, and you can show people these video clips, but they don't want to acknowledge it at all. So that's why it's pointless. I don't even bother debating these people because, like, no.
Well, that's another abusive thing, right?
Yeah,
like, oh no, my boyfriend didn't hit me, or I deserve to be hit, or
look at these bruises.
This is a real thing.
Yeah, it's insane though. But again, that's why, like, to me, Joe Rogan and just in general, the presence of social media and the power that it has that's why it matters so much, because you're able, at some point, people will crack and be like, okay, wait, hold on, and actually start seeing it when they're ready to or they want to, whatever. That's why I'm like, dude, Joe Rogan is literally threatening people. Honestly, Joe Rogan and just him having conversations, this is my theory, but in my opinion, when he had Dr. Robert Malone talking about the CDC, COVID, shortly after that, we started seeing like subtle changes by, Fauci and Biden and stuff regarding COVID. And I'm sorry, but that was literally because Joe Rogan had the balls to just have a conversation. Yes. Which is why, like, I respect him a lot. Like, dude, he's just having a conversation and they're fucking scared, which is why they backpedal a little bit, And now they want to take him down, like, shocking.
And you know what? They couldn't have picked a worse target, like worse for them, 100%. Because he's genuinely a nice person. And you're not going to convince people that are aware that he's a nice person that he's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what does everyone think about his apologies then? So, I mean, I'm sure that we all kind of think that it was a bad idea. Right. But what is everyone's kind of thoughts around it? Like, what do you think? Do you think there will actually be any kind of impact?
Can you recap on that? He only, unless I'm wrong, but he only apologized. Did he apologize?
He apologized twice, I think, right?
Yeah.
Once for like, oh, well, I'm going to have more people talking about COVID stuff. I'll have people from both sides. But then he also apologized for using the N-word. And he was like, oh, it's not my word to say, blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry. Yeah, and I learned. And
so he did say, I'm sorry, or was he just explaining it?
He did.
He did. Yeah.
I feel multiple ways about it because obviously all of us here have all had like mobs go against us. And no matter how much we say we're above it, it's not a great feeling.
No, it's a horrible feeling.
Amplify that by 100 million, include the White House, include all of mainstream media, include half the population, and include almost all of Hollywood. That has got to be just to have the world coming down on you like that.
Yeah, even one of his friends, The Rock, even like turned his back on him within 10 seconds after saying something. Andrew Yang, who I follow on Twitter, was like all for Joe Rogan. Then all of a sudden he got attacked and he was like, just kidding.
But I mean, Joe Rogan had on Bernie Sanders, so I don't understand. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's willing to have anybody on there.
Well, you can never be pure enough. We all know that, but but I feel multiple ways about it in the sense that like I didn't like the apology, not because I thought it was a bad one, but because I thought like this isn't going to do anything other than make his supporters mad, at least a portion of them. Because people know you're not supposed to apologize. And that's even what I tweeted. Like the only thing Joe Rogan did wrong was apologize. And then Media Matters put it in an article saying conservatives turning against Joe Rogan because he apologized, which is so manipulative and disgusting. I wasn't turning against him. I said that in defense of him. Like he had nothing, he didn't do anything wrong,
But like when you're in those situations, sometimes you're not really thinking properly. Like you said, you've got lots of people like kind of out for blood. And the pressure on that, especially when, like you don't have many friends to turn to, or like in Rogan's case where he had like friends kind of turning their back on him, like that kind of stuff is going to really weigh down on you. Yeah. And so I can understand where he would be coming from as to why he would then think, like, even though we all know it's the wrong thing to do, but like when I had the mob after me last year because of the whole ContraPoints thing, this is what was going through my head. I was like, I'd spoke with some friends and were like, don't do it. But part of me was thinking, this is just an honest misunderstanding. If we just explain, if we just put something out there, don't have to put too much, but just say something, and maybe people will calm down. And that's kind of what goes through your head. But of course, the reality is
that's not what happens.
Is that blood's in the water? And so, like after my apology, that was when Lindsay Ellis went after me. So
you start to think about it. You attempt to find a logical way out of it, and the reality is these situations do have logical explanations. The logical explanation for the N-word thing with Joe Rogan is like, hey, I've never called a Black person this out of malice or hatred or at all. I said it in a neutral context. I was quoting people, or I was attempting to be humorous. That's the logical explanation. But you're not dealing with logical people, and we all know that. You're dealing with mob mentality, and you're dealing with like just this monster. And it was never about the N-word.
I mean, I get why he did that, but I disagree. He should have handled it like Dave Chappelle did. Remember, like when they went after him, he basically just. He didn't apologize, and he like doubled down.
Yeah, he doubled. Like Dave. I mean, the thing is, everyone's different, and so Dave Chappelle might just be like. I mean, I know
Dave Chappelle's
Rogan
also black, so he's got that card to play.
I know that Rogan is a stand-up comedian,
yeah.
but like I don't know how prolific he is as a comedian.
Joe Rogan needs to identify as non-binary.
He
has to identify as non-binary in order to get away with this.
Sorry. You also have to remember he has kids, and we don't know the ways in which all of this has or could be affecting them.
Yeah.
So I think when you're a parent, the way you react is going to be a lot different as well.
That's a good point.
I didn't want to kind of look like I'm judging him for doing that, but what I think is I can't help but feel like, because the blood is still out there. I mean, like, this controversy has been going on for a number of weeks now, and I'm not sure when it will. Like, I think that there are people who want this to carry on rolling, and so there will be. They search through his old stream, his old podcasts to find the N-word. You'll probably have people trying to find more dirt on him, just to kind of put extra coal on the fire.
Of course, they're going to do that.
And like,
people are already calling him transphobic. I mean, they already have called him transphobic. I guarantee you, in another 2-3 days,
is transphobic.
Yeah, there's going to be another compilation video of him being misogynistic and sexist or homophobic or something.
There'll be some,
right, and they won't include him telling me on the show that trans absolutely makes sense when he's talking to someone like me. Yeah. And he even, like, what's so crazy is people would never even acknowledge this, is like, he even pushed back on some of the things I said about trans ideology because he's further left than me. Like, it wasn't like anything heated or anything, but there was a few things I said where he was like, well, I don't know, what about this? Like, he's not just some fucking people. He is not this caricature that people make him out to be.
Yeah, I saw that. He's like way more relaxed about stuff than you are, which is, but it doesn't matter.
Right. I'm a nutcase. He's a lot more sane than me.
I think, I was gonna say, I think it's more annoying that he had to apologize. I don't think it's wrong. The only there's nothing wrong with apologizing if you actually think that you did something wrong and want to grow from it. The only issue that everybody has that's on the right or like not on the left is that this is not actually going to get us anywhere, right? Like, this is just going to make them turn against you even more, because now they know that they have, like Ben Shapiro says, they have the claws in you. That's it. They're not letting
the way
go.
The way I saw it is like they drew blood in that moment.
Yep.
Like they were trying to draw blood, and they got some out of that. But what's going to make the difference is him being able to bounce back and say, you know what, fuck it. Like, I'm going to keep going. And it looks like he is. I knock on wood, but I know Alex was saying on his show that he was with him a couple days ago and that he was in good spirits and ready to fight more than ever, which is a very good sign. Like, apparently he's very geared up. And during the thick of it, I texted him and let him know, like, people have your back, please be well, all that. And he seemed good when he texted me back too. So I think he's okay. I think he's going to be good.
Oh, that's good. That's really good to hear.
Yeah.
Oh. Especially if he's got Alex Jones looking out for him as well. That's so wholesome. That's so wholesome. Right. That's a scoop for seal of approval then. Alex Jones as being an uncle to Joe Rogan. Just want to quickly do a super chat because many come through today. Frederick with the 20 SEK. At least Mommy Tulsi hasn't turned against Rogan. No, she's one of the few people. Like few kind of politicians on the Democrat. I know she's no longer like a Democrat politician, but she's like one of the only ones that seems to be like decent. And so yeah, I'm glad she was there. I did see there was another super chat from James. James will know who he is because he's someone who I went to uni with. Sorry, I know that you sent in a super chat earlier. It's disappeared from my thingy. Sorry about that, but thank you anyway. So yeah, like there's a few other things that I want to talk about. So we're going to try and keep this stream to about an hour. So try and get through a couple of other things, but I forgot to introduce the Seals of News.
Yay! Adele, I just made a video about her. Yay.
The Seals of News.
What a shit show.
What happened with Adele?
So Adele, do you want me to just hop into this?
Let's go. Let's go for Adele. Let's
actually, because I kind of heard about it, but I haven't seen the actual hate.
I've
got a couple of things to say about
it. Bring it up, just so I don't mess anything up. But apparently she was at a British, I think it was a British award show.
At the Brits.
At the Brits. Okay, that's what it was. And they changed the category from best female or best male artist to simply just best artist, right? And she, in her acceptance speech, she was like, yeah, well, I understand why they changed the name of the award, but like, I still love being a woman and I love being a female artist and I'm proud of us. And people were like, you're a fucking TERF, you're a TERF.
Oh, no.
And it's like, why are trans people the only people that can be proud of their gender?
Right.
Like,
everyone can love themselves. Everyone can love themselves except white people and women.
Yeah. Yeah. That's basically the long and the short of it, of what happened. And people, of course, let me see. I still have my my scripts up, actually. It's horrible. People were saying, let me find it. I love Adele, but that woman comment seemed like a bit of a dig. Non-binary artists deserve better. And then somebody else was like, no, Adele can't be a TERF. It was that last comment, so ambiguous, can be perceived as TERFy.
What a cult.
It is.
Truly.
But like,
what a cult.
The people, like trans women can be like India Willoughby, right? And what's her name? Laverne Cox. Are like quoted like and celebrated saying I'm a woman, and like, good for you. Why aren't we allowed to do the same thing? Like, why are we the ones that are being, vilified for it? It just doesn't make any sense.
And also, it's coming from the same people that if you misgender them, it's like, a hate crime.
Yep. So somebody said, astonishing how a woman could go on stage saying how much she loves being a woman and a female, and that's enough to label her a TERF. It's literally just the same as J.K. Rowling saying biology is real.
Dude, I've often said, but like the trans movement, and y'all know when I'm talking about the trans movement, I'm talking about these ideologues.
The crazies, right?
Yeah, and what I mean by that is like the fact that they have allowed themselves to be positioned and seen as a threat to women and children. They've literally done it to themselves. Yes. And there's no digging out of that hole unless they reform themselves, because no healthy society is going to ever fully accept any movement that they perceive to be in any way as a threat to women and children, because women and children are protected in a healthy society. So unless we go completely off the cliff, which sometimes it feels like we are, but I know we aren't, it's always going to have this pushback. It doesn't have to be this way.
I know it doesn't. Which is why I know at least Mars and I do our best to have people like you and Ash and Debbie, people that I think she's in the UK as well. Like,
yeah, she is.
Yeah, like people like that makes it, like Buck Angel, right? People that are healthy-minded, actual trans people that are speaking sense.
Yeah.
I'm always like, of course, I criticize and I make videos about the crazies, but I also want to promote the people that are sane. Right, because it's important to have a balance, I think.
So you've always done that, and that's always been something I've admired about you so much. You've always done that. Thank you, it's so important because, I mean, we all know this. I'm preaching to the choir here, but the reason why there's not more people like us is not because there aren't more people like us. It's because people are so afraid to talk. Because also part of being sane and healthy is not wanting to be attacked for the rest of your life. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And I can sit here and honestly say that unless someday I get reconstructive surgery and change my name, I know I'll be attacked for the rest of my life. Unless this movement completely dies out, I know it's something I'm gonna have to deal with forever. And people don't want that,
Not everyone can handle it.
It's much easier to just go live like a stealth life and not do
absolutely
right.
Do you want, like, I have a bit of a different take on this to you, Ariel. Like, I don't know, like you might have looked into this more than I have, because I've tried to. Yes. Okay. So I've tried to look into it today because I saw a lot of people talking about this on Twitter, and I came across a few trans activists saying nobody is saying this. This is just TERFs and the evil British media whipping up hatred against trans people once again, pretending that we've said something that we haven't. Okay. So I tried to find out how many people exactly were talking about this. And one of the main accounts is one that you probably have mentioned in your video. It's someone who's now got their account on lock, so I can't quite pull it up. Yeah, private. Which seems to be the one. I think his name's like Jacob. Patrick or something, or Jacob.
I think if it's the person I'm thinking of, yeah, it's like Jacob,
it must be. Yeah. So there was one account that everyone was basically quote tweeting and sharing and being like, this is ridiculous. But having searched for like Adele and TERF on Twitter, most of the comments are from people basically saying that, like, oh, it's ridiculous to call Adele a TERF just for saying this. So a lot of the trans activists are saying, well, like, nobody is saying this in the trans community. This is all made up. This is just TERFs piling on one person who is not representative of the community. That well may be the case, that there isn't many people talking about this. But I think that neither side, and if that is the case, there could well be loads of trans people who are talking about this. But if it's the case that there's only 1 or 2 people talking about it and everyone's kind of amplified it to make it look like there's loads, nobody wins. So with the kind of gender critical side, there are plenty of examples of trans people getting offended over the slightest thing. This is stuff that all of us have talked about in multiple videos. We know how easily offended they are. And so you don't need to kind of over exaggerate the controversy on one thing when there are so many examples out there.
That's fair.
That controversy, of people actually losing their shit over nothing. I mean, hell, the amount of time we've seen things like, women being referred to as uterus havers or menstruators or birthing persons, like those kinds of things. We know the outrage that goes with it. But TRAs don't come out of this good either, because it's so believable that they would flip out over something like this.
Which is why they're probably amplifying it. Right, yeah. Which is why they're playing. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I don't think we have a different take. I actually say that in the video that I'm posting too. I say like there's more people that are vouching for Adele versus the trans activists that are supposedly trying to cancel her, for sure. And at least that I've seen, I agree with you. Yeah, but I also think, again, you have to follow the money, right? Like, these companies are going to promote these articles or these statements or whatever because of controversy, and they're going to get paid more money because more people are going to get upset about it, right? And they're going to click on the article and share it.
Yeah, there's going to be plenty. There's going to be plenty of journalists who are just seeing this trending on Twitter and then write a story as a result of it. That's what a lot of modern day journalism is.
Yes, absolutely.
For better or worse. But I think that even if this is an overblown controversy, even if there aren't actually that many trans people calling it, saying that Adele was talking like a TERF or anything like that, it's so on brand for them that they should even take a step back and think, why is everyone believing this? But they never do. They never do.
That's the bigger message, I think.
Yeah, it's also a lot of these people are fucking mindless, and they don't think anything's a problem until the corporate media tells them so. So it's the same thing as like the trans bathroom thing. It's like, it was never an issue until the media started pitting people against each other, making it an issue. And now it is. And it's almost like some really strange human psychosis that, like, all of a sudden when it became an issue in the media, real things started happening. Like, you started seeing actual like sexual assaults in bathrooms from people claiming to be trans. And it's almost like the media like makes things happen. Like, they just fuck with people's heads until we're all battling each other. And the worst of both sides comes out.
Yeah. No, I think that's part of it as well.
I agree with that too. I
mean, there's so many. It's almost like a symptom of modern day discourse. So social media has been much more of a curse to society than a blessing, because a lot of this stuff should never be stories. A lot of this stuff is people like, nobody ever cared about it. And I would say that trans activism would be in a much better place if it had taken off before the age of social media.
I would give anything. I would give anything to be, the 28-year-old trans woman I am, but living in like, I don't know, like the early 2000s or something. Like, I would give anything for that. There might have been more people that had negative feelings towards trans people, but at least those negative feelings were out of ignorance of like, what the fuck does that mean? Rather than like, oh no, I know what it means, and these people are crazy. That's what you have now.
Well, yeah, we completely jumped over we completely jumped over the rational explanation as to what being a trans person is. We went from your average TV show, if they mentioned a trans person, it would be a butt of a joke. Or if it was about trans people, it would normally be like Sex Change Hospital. Or there was a show in the UK called like There's Something About Miriam, which was a dating show with all these men fawning over this woman. And in the last episode, she revealed to them that she was trans. And like, it was all like shock TV and stuff like that.
Okay.
But so we jumped from that to now we have like, people like wearing pronoun badges at work. We have like, we've gone from like men have penises and women have vaginas to there are an infinite amount of genders and even more infinite amounts of sexes. And disagreeing with this could lead you to lose your job or be removed from online platforms. There was never that in the middle phase,
right,
where people could actually sit down and discuss it. We went from one extreme to another, and some progressive activists might think like, progress should never be slow and steady. You should always rush to the end because this is people's rights on the line. But at the same time, if you
rush. Exactly. If you rush it and people don't understand, it's gonna what do they say? The pendulum is gonna swing far back the other way, and it's already doing that.
Yeah,
and also
you rush it.
To let your movement become a threat to children is like, what are you doing? Yeah. Where is and for it to only be causing a net negative effect? Like, this is why I always say, like, the main reason I will never fucking back down from my opinions, no matter how much hate I get, no matter how many backlash or how many people deem me as some black sheep of the trans community, is because what they're doing isn't working. So who are you to tell me that what I'm doing is wrong when what they're doing isn't working? What they advocate for is producing less and less people accepting trans people. What they're advocating for is hurting children. What they're advocating for is causing us to go backwards. So even if I'm not doing things in the right way, or I'm not, the fucking future of what the ideology will eventually become, like I would maybe want to be, at least I know I'm not taking us fucking backwards.
Absolutely.
This is all this super political, and in my opinion, the way I see the trans thing, just like a lot of things today, is just, and it's just a communist takeover. That's all I see. It's so fucking political, and it's all left leaning. And I know people get pissed off, and I always blame the left, but it's all coming from the left. The media,
is.
Like, it's all the left. It's all takeover.
We've seen it's coming from the right just because appease people. Like,
exactly. Well, because they're always like, well, yeah, but capitalism bad and all this stuff. And but the thing is, it's like it's so obviously coming from the left. I've even seen, and you've seen it, Rose, trans activists on video saying that trans liberation is like a window into communist revolution or some shit. Yeah, so that's what's coming with it. And when the thing that sucks again is that when things flip around and actual backlash comes to all of us, they're not gonna fucking spare people like us who were speaking out and being logical. They're gonna see all, including Ariel, all LGBT people at fault for destroying or for harming kids and everything. Like, everybody's gonna be blamed, and that's why it makes me so mad. And I too, like Blaire, would not back down from my opinions, because to me, like, if I could at least change people's minds just a little bit, then maybe I won't have to live in a world where I have to fucking be closeted or some shit, Yeah.
Well, right. When it comes to like this coming from the left, like, of course it does. A lot of radical gay activism was incredibly left leaning. A lot of the like kind of revolutionary gay rights movements from the 1970s, the ones that would actually get quite physical with people, a lot of them would name themselves after various communist movements around the world. There were ones that would name themselves after the Khmer Rouge, for example. Now, that's just how extreme these people were. And then in the 80s, when you started to get the kind of like the foundations of queer theory, a lot of these were open Marxists, open communists. I mean, they would condemn communist China because, it wasn't real communism.
Yeah, every time, right? It's never the real communism, or like it's not. That's not the kind of communism I believe in.
But the way ultimately what they want is a world without taboos. They want to be able to subvert basically the foundations of Western civilization. And like, that's not an over exaggeration of what they want. A lot of people on the left thoroughly detest Western civilization, and they make it very clear whenever they talk about it. One of the things that queer activism ultimately wants is this, basically, like, for the whole world to become degenerates. Like, if you listen to like kind of like gay Marxists from the 80s, and they'll often talk about, you know, just people having sex on the street with dead bodies whilst eating shit in front of children. And like that is a thing in a book. That is a thing in a real book, Mario Miele. They talk about it. They talk about this stuff. They're very open about it. And this is where kind of queer, like, this is where a lot of it comes from. And it's fine if they are just talking about kind of being more sex positive within their own little communities. But the thing is, they want the whole world to be their community. And so that ultimately puts in people who aren't comfortable with that shit.
Which is still always blows my mind. Like, why can't people just leave me alone? Like, I never understand that. Sorry.
Remember the good old days when the LGBT movement was just about being nice to each other?
I remember because I was one of the original content creators on the damn site.
Right.
That remember when it was
message. When it was just the It Gets Better campaign, and it's like doing something real, like telling young kids like the bullying you face is going to go away because it was the truth. And then, you know, like talking about real shit. And now it's like just it's clownery. It's all clownery.
Yep.
Once it got political, and like my friend David, Brokeback Patriot, talks about this. Like he went to a pride parade with his straight guy friend in St. Pete, and he was getting bullied. So the next year they showed up again for being Trump supporters. So the next year they showed up again, and his straight guy best friend, Rogan, showed up with a sign that said "Stop bullying gay Trump supporters," and like that photo went viral on Twitter or something. It's just like it's gotten so political that you can't think differently.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a cult. Hello.
Yeah.
It's literally
right. And the fact that it is a cult makes it, to me, it makes so much sense why it's so hard to get through to them. Because at the end of the day, like people like us, we are fighting upstream. You know what I mean? Like we are pushing as hard as we can against the current, and not for the sake of it, but because this is really what we believe in. This, it just so happens that we're going against the current. But to me, that's why, like, whenever I get frustrated, I just try to remind myself, like, it's like trying to convince someone in the Westboro Baptist Church that they shouldn't hate gay people. It's very difficult, and they come around years later, but you can't take anything personally. Like, that's why whenever people...
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
That's why when people lash out at me, I have to force myself to feel empathy for them rather than like defensiveness, because they're in a fucking cult. But you go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I literally met somebody that was in the Westboro Baptist Church.
Megan Phelps, right?
Yeah, she was. Yeah, she was at the thing in Miami that I was at recently.
I saw the picture.
It was so bizarre. She literally came up to me and we started talking about it, and she's like, "Yeah, that whole thing. Sorry about that." And I'm like, "It's okay." It's okay. Wow. It's like because you and I get it, Blaire. Like, we get that these people are not of sane mind right now.
No,
they're not. Also, you can't.
Also, one thing which you probably noticed with a lot of like LGBT kind of community speak is the way in which they try and scare their members from the outside world. Like when you listen to a lot of trans rhetoric, they'll often say, use phrases like there is a genocide against trans women of color. You know, that the UK is becoming TERF Island. They want to strip away your rights. They want to stop you from going to the bathroom. They're going to ban your hormones. They're going to force kids to kill themselves and all of this bullshit, which a lot of them are going to know that it's bullshit, but it's kind of links in with the cult mentality because,
of course, because listen, we're the only ones that care about you, right?
And
we're the only ones that are going to protect you.
Yes, abusers. That's the way they are. Yeah, that's the way they are. It's like we are the one, we're the ones who understand you. Like when I was in London, there was a lot of people in the queer community who, said they were like estranged from their families, and they kind of considered the queer community to be like their adopted family. And at the time, I thought, all of these people must have really homophobic and transphobic parents. And now I start to think, well, how much of this was actually their parents being problematic, and how much of this was them being convinced that their parents were problematic because of things other people had told to them?
That's a great point.
100%. And also, like, it's a very, very well documented communist playbook to separate kids from their parents. And it's why you have these people saying things like, you know, I remember this talking point. This is one of their oldest talking points. The whole trans activist talking point is like, oh, if you don't let kids transition, they're going to kill themselves. Imagine like what kind of worse emotional blackmail could you put on parents than to tell them that if you don't give into this, medicate your child for the rest of their life, castrate them, they're going to kill themselves. You're putting these parents in a position between choosing castration or suicide. And the idea that those are the only two options is so sick.
Yeah, they just don't care. They don't care about how this would ultimately impact anyone else. All they care about is the purity to their own cause. And how I think that in the next couple of years, a lot of people, and it kind of leads into this story which I brought here, which is like the third seal. So I'm not going to show the seals of news, but they. I think because a lot of this is almost like a fad, you know, like we had like emos and now you have like the NBs kind of coming out. I mean, like you didn't get emos organically. You don't get NBs organically. They all come from association. You never see an NB on the right. You never see a conservative NB. I've been looking for ages, never come across one. The closest that I do find are people who started out on the left anyway. Even if they eventually change their world viewpoint and they've become more based, we still started out on the left.
Can I say something totally unrelated to what you're saying? There's this comment here by Trouble Girl. She's saying, been trans in New York City for decades, and I have never felt so free to be out among the public as I have in the last 6-7 years. There is no war on trans people. No kidding. Exactly. The war is trans people against everybody else, including the wrong trans people. Yeah, I mean, it's just like the war is literally, we're creating, not we here in this room, but like the trans community, they're creating a war against everybody else because they don't say what they want, believe what they want, or affirm their kids. So yeah, and New York City, you're free. Like, of course, yeah, I know. Like, I just don't get comments like that.
Yeah, well, yeah, like in the UK, there's apparently like record numbers of like LGBT hate crimes, and yet none of the trans people I know in the UK, myself included, have been on the receiving end of a hate crime.
Because what is a hate crime?
I was just going to say, how do they define hate crime these days? How do they define hate crime? Is it misgendering?
Blaire sitting in here is a hate crime. Like, I mean, it's anything. Like, it's crazy.
So I wanted to talk about this story, which I came across because Jordan Peterson shared it. It's a couple of months old now, but it kind of links into some of the things that we've been talking about. Nearly 40% of US Gen Zs and 30% of young Christians identify as LGBTQIA++++. So you got 30% of millennials identifying as LGBTQ, according to a study which is going to be that people describing themselves as gay, self-selected study, the best ones, because they always give the researchers the answers that they want. And this doesn't come as any kind of surprise to me, because thanks to basically labels like queer, because when I was kind of associated with the queer community in London, there were a lot of people who were not LGBT involved in it. There was a lot, but they kind of felt a little bit of pressure to self-identify as maybe bisexual, even if it was a guy who would never be with another guy or anything like that. They still felt that pressure. And like one of my friends who I met through that community, like she passed away a couple of years ago, but I remember like her explicitly telling me about like all of these kind of guys that she was getting with, and like all of them called themselves bi, but none of them were bi. They were all straight, but they were cis het white males, which are very much looked down upon in those communities.
That's exactly the point you're making. Yeah, perfect point. Yes, this is why, in my opinion, more and more people are identifying as LGBT. Not because there are more people that actually are LGBT, because people are hating on cis straight white people so much that people are feeling pressured to identify as anything else other than cis and straight. You can't identify out of your race, but I like some people try.
It's hard to put yourself in the shoes of someone who would literally identify as LGBT despite objectively not being it. I know to a lot of people that just sounds crazy. Like even to me,
it makes sense.
As a trans person, I'm like, who the fuck would ever do that? But you have to remember what it's like when you're in these social groups where all of your friends are inundated with this ideology every day. I mean, not to be a broken record, but it is culty as fuck. And it's like that. Like, I knew people like this. I knew people that you know, before I came on YouTube and lost all these friends, because after that they all stopped fucking with me. But I had friends like that were normal, straight, not trans people, and then they go to college, and within a couple of years, suddenly they're queer and they're getting trans flag tattoos on them and shit. And it's like, if that was never part of you before, maybe it's a red flag that it's only part of you after going to college.
Yeah. Yes. Bear in mind, for a lot of these things, they don't actually have to do anything. For a lot of these labels, all they have to say is,
nobody owes you androgyny.
Yeah, nobody. Like, it's, I think the two easiest ones, based on personal experience, is being
queer and non-binary.
Well, I'll put bisexual in there simply because of the amount of people who like come across within the queer community who identified as bi but weren't. Yeah. Which is kind of awkward because I don't want to be saying that, you know, like bisexuality doesn't exist or anything like that, but it is ultimately one of those things where, you know, you can say that you're bisexual and not actually, you know, be like, you could be like a bisexual man and never date a man or have sex with a man or anything.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's all I mean. It's just it's easy for in the queer community. It's very easy for a straight person to say that they are bi, and that's
all know. Even before all this woke shit, we all knew the girl who was bi
in high school, right?
And she never was. I'm like, okay, so you ever been with a girl? No. Okay, so it's been 20 years since you said you were bi. Have you been with a girl? No. It's like, okay.
And, she might kiss a girl when she's drunk.
Yeah. And it's taboo to question them. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. We all know those people. And it's the equivalent of like, you can say you're non-binary, and guess what? You never have to commit.
You're not going to get any pushback.
You never have to commit to transitioning. You can just be you. And, you know, and it's great to just be you. And you know what? I fully support anyone living their life any way they want, but don't call yourself trans and muddy the waters of what we're sitting here trying to accomplish and talk to people about because you want to be included, because you never felt special as a kid. Your parents didn't hug you enough, or they hugged you too much and your life was too easy and you're really looking for a struggle.
I love how like being trans has basically kind of gone from being the most difficult thing to kind of do in terms of like, you know, like transitioning with all the medication and everything. It's gone from that to like being the most effort to the least effort in the space of a couple of years.
That's
it's now just all you have to say now is, yeah, I'm trans. That's it. 10 years ago, it was like, you know, you had to be doing the transition. You had to put in effort. You actually had to pass. Really. And like now it's just, trans. Trans
and
pride.
You know what? It's not even necessarily, at least like traditionally, like it wasn't even always about passing, in my opinion, because in the past you could be around, you know, someone who was maybe more obviously trans, and you can just tell like, okay, this person wants to be called she, I'm going to do it to be polite and because I don't want to hurt their feelings. You know, that's always been a thing. And so it's never been about necessarily like you have to embody looking like a woman or a man 100%, but we're so past the point of being courteous. It's like, that this culture war has gotten so toxic that no one wants to be courteous anymore. And they have reason to not be. If I wasn't trans, like I probably wouldn't like trans people either, just based on like the representation and the things you see in media. Like I probably wouldn't, just being honest. The only reason I fight so hard is because I know trans people are better than this. And I know how many people come to me behind closed doors and say that, you know, please don't stop. This is how I feel. And I feel this bitterness towards them. Like, why can't you say it too? If it's just me, it doesn't mean anything. If it's just Rose, it doesn't mean anything. If it's just Marge, it doesn't mean anything. But it's hard.
I just find it really insulting because it's mostly white, straight males that are doing this, right? That also, coincidentally, are typically they're coming from a fairly decent background. They grew up like in the suburbs. You know, they had it pretty easy. And they're also communist, right? And so, like, for me, like, that's really fucking insulting. My parents immigrated here from Cuba. I'm trans. And, like, you're telling me that you just fucking one day woke up and said, actually, I'm tired of being a self-hating white guy. I want to be included. And also, we're going to change the United States of America because, you know, fuck capitalism. It's really bad. And, it's always the same people over and over again, which is, like, just, you know, again, not to shit on white people because I'm not saying all white people are like this. I'm just... It's very obvious when you look at what's been happening politically is you want to bash white people. Okay, well, you're going to have a bunch of self-hating white people that want to claim some other identity. No kidding.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's exactly
and it is. And I'm going to be honest. It is white people, but it's white libs.
Oh,
Yeah.
100%.
Oh, absolutely.
Like they really are the worst demographic in the country, and I have no problem saying that. I don't care who gets mad. Like white libs are literally ruining the country.
Yep, facts.
True.
So I'm aware that like Blaire and Ariel, I know you guys kind of need to go relatively soon.
Yes, my editor literally just texted me that he's sending the video over now,
so we'll start wrapping things up. So what we need to do now is do the vote on who gets the seal of approval. So in the chat, I've posted the link to the straw poll so you can vote to see like who gets this week's seal of approval. And also, because we haven't done one of these in a little while, seal of the week. And here's the seal of the week.
What the heck?
Oh, look at his fat face.
Look at
his rolls on his neck.
Looks like
his name is Comet. He is a grey seal, and he was able to galump hundreds of yards from the water in order to survive. He was found by police.
You love seals, how I love otters. I'm obsessed with sea otters.
Like seals.
Otters are awesome.
I mean, I did see some otters when I was in California years ago by Monterey.
They're like water cats. That's why they're perfect animals.
And they have the little rocks that they keep as pets.
And they like go like this with them.
Here is Comet, where he's been found by the police, and they were able to rescue him and take him to an animal shelter, where they are hoping that he is making a full recovery. I just thought it was
a seal.
Seals are just they're just the best.
I would be a seal.
I want like one thing one of the reasons why I want to go to America is I know there are places where they have like I think like there's a SeaWorld in Texas and there's a SeaWorld in Florida and both of them have seals.
I could take you to the one here in Blaire. I could take you to the one in San Antonio.
Yes,
but isn't SeaWorld like fucked up though? Don't they do like fucked up things to the animals?
They you have to look into it because some of them are and some of them are not. So some of them have rescue animals. So you really just have to look into it. Yeah. Like a lot of the zoos that I go to are at least the ones in New York City anyway. I know a lot of them are rescue animals. So they would have died in the wild, you know?
Yeah, it
really depends on where you go.
Yeah, there's I can't remember what state it's in. There's a place called Hershey Park.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Pennsylvania. Yeah. So they have some seals there, which are rescue seals. Like they don't breed.
I will take you. I will take you.
I really want to go.
It's only a 2-hour drive from me in New York.
They had the most adorable seal there last year called Mango, who is a harbor seal. I actually ended up buying a load of her merchandise.
Of course you did.
Yes, they had a proper merchandise store for this one seal who became like a TikTok star.
That's cute.
Yeah, sadly she passed away. She was a good seal. Right, so I think it's time now to see who gets this week's seal of approval. So can someone give me a drum roll, please? And this week's winner is it's Blaire by a landslide.
Did you always do that? I don't remember
the seal of approval. Oh yeah, like this is a weekly. Well, I think the last time you were on, you needed to go. I think you jumped off and then Mikey Harlow came on.
Oh, Mikey.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you guys.
That's can I just say, not to take away, Blaire's moment, but I think this is the closest I've gone to almost winning. Like, but I didn't think I'd beat Blaire because she made some really.
Are you pulling a Kanye?
Yeah, no. I just think it's funny because I was like, oh wow, like I'm almost.
But Beyonce had the best video of all time.
Yeah, I know.
I'm gonna let you finish, but I'm the best.
All right,
right. So I've got some super chats to read out. So James88 with £8.99. Like with Jimmy Carr, they will be out for blood until he apologizes. I think this is relating to Rogan. Being praised one moment for arguing with someone for not having the vax. In the same show, he's being castigated for a joke. JS Powell with the £5. Thanks for the lovely lineup tonight. This is a lovely lineup. This is a very lovely lineup.
This is the crew right here.
I know. We just really we need to have a stream of us four and Buck and Mikey Harlow.
Oh, I love that.
And we all have to hang out in real life.
We have to hang out in real life.
Yeah.
Which is why you guys should come down to.
I would be down and hanging out in real life, but I don't. I will not go to Mike's I don't want to go to New York City, honestly.
Well, actually, I have been talking for ages about coming up to America. I'm still trying to decide, like, because I still like this is something I'm gonna have to talk with you guys about probably off stream, but I still want to organize some sort of event in America. Texas or Florida.
You can stay with me in Florida, and you can stay with me in New York. Just let me know when you're coming, so I can make sure I'm there.
It has to be a southern state. Because I want to be in like proper America.
You want to shoot a gun.
Proper America.
Yes, I want to shoot a gun. I want to have proper
barbecue
food.
Oh God, yes.
I don't want to be in a liberal hell state.
Yeah,
that's not what I want.
Period.
And James88 with another £4.49. Thanks a lot, James. He said, I've said this before, I'll say it again. They remind me of the emo girls who are only bi on MySpace, where they kissed a girl once, drunk at a party. Yeah, that is them in a nutshell. So with that, we'll need to wrap things up now because I think we've run a little bit over. So I want to thank all my lovely guests once again for coming on. It's been like far too long since we last chatted. It's been absolutely loving having you on. Hopefully we can chat again real soon.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on. Thanks, of course, to Ariel and Mars.
Thanks for having me back on, and it was good to see you, Ariel and Blaire.
Yes, I miss you all.
You too. Yes, you guys are all awesome, and I'm so glad you guys are all, we're in this together. It's great.
For sure.
So seal of approval will be back next Wednesday as usual, and I'll try and get another normal video out before then. Apologies that nothing's come out in the last couple of weeks. It's just I've been very, very busy at work. But stuff's happening. So anyway, thanks everyone once again. I'll see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.